Hey y'all, Melissa here, Twin Oaks Family Farm. Welcome back to Southeast Ohio, to our home place, to our small poultry operation, and to our YouTube channel. So I think in the shot behind me you can see the little flatbed utility trailer sitting on the other side of the dark gray First and Dodge. So that utility trailer sitting there tells me that the guys finished up the new chicken coop build last night while I was at work. So I will get to take a first look at it, basically finished. Some finishing touches do have to be put on it because of the type of design it is and the site it sits at. But I'm going to take you with me, and your first look will be the same time as my first look as well. So I'm really excited to see it. It is a small build. It's just an 8-foot by 8-foot chicken coop, but it's homemade. We designed it. We got the materials. My husband and sons built it. So I'm so excited to see it. But first, I have to go check chickens. So just hang in here with me and we'll get over there to the building momentarily. So it is warming up. January 30th, 2025 here, and the snow is finally melting away. So right now it's in the 30s, and it actually, even though it's just in the 30s, actually feels pretty good here. The hens love feed time, and we love to find eggs. Then this is the other hen house of our egg layers. We just fed, and she just laid her egg. She just laid her egg. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab that one. There wasn't another one in there. Now she'll go eat. We just missed that by seconds, y'all. That's the way it goes. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I got 5 from the hens that are temporarily in the meat bird barn that we're going to be moving into the new chicken coop. I'll grab these and we'll head over to the new chicken coop build. Okay, so it's basically finished. There's my first look at it, y'all's first look at it. So they did say there's a few finishing touches, and I can see that from here. The roof metal is on, the ridge cap is on. From here I can see the ridge cap needs trimmed down yet, and it's in the design concept of a skid building, so there's not posts in the ground and there's not a foundation built up to the bottom of the building. So we do have to fill gaps at the bottom of the walls, but those are all very manageable things. Let's go down and take a closer look. And then another thing we'll probably update as the weather gets warmer, when we can paint, do exterior paint, is we definitely plan on painting the exterior of the bottom half, that T111 siding, most likely black. And I see the ridge cap is kind of like a buckskin or tan color. I might see if we can actually do a paint application on it and probably make it black, because we'll get corner trim as well ordered here, and I figure we'll try to get it in black. So, and then fill in the gap at the bottom and trim that ridge cap down. And other than that, I think it's done. So let us know what questions y'all have about it. We already are like, there's goods, there's bads, and there's uglies, you know, with any project. So just like any project, there's things that we're like, we'll definitely do that again, or oh, we wouldn't want to really do that way again, or we didn't think of that, you know, those kinds of things. But so this will be the side, obviously, with the man door that we go into. At the moment, it's actually fastened shut, fastened closed with a screw there, because we'll get some door hardware to put on it. So around the door, they had to trim with the T111. And then we wanted to use this basically like corrugated polycarbonate panel that's somewhat like greenhouse material. We talked about using it for the entire wall, but then we kind of got the feeling that having something more solid on the bottom would be more conducive to making the nesting and egg laying areas for the hens. We want a little bit of some dark area, be able to create a little bit of some dark areas to facilitate that, because hens love to lay eggs in a place that feels safe and secure and cozy and secluded, and a little bit of darkened and a little bit of cover. So putting the greenhouse panel all the way down probably would not have been helpful for that. We figure the solid material on the bottom probably will be helpful for that. When I had got home last night, they said, well, there's just one problem with your door. And I said, well, what is that? And they said, well, you have to use a screw gun to get into it. So I said, that's not going to be a great solution, but it is fastened shut with that screw, just so it's not, if the wind picks up, until we get a latch and handle on it, so it's not blowing around. But this is a salvage door. So let's talk cost, let's talk man hours here. So cost, all the materials that you see sitting here, and of course you can't see, we'll go up in a little closer, you can't really see like all the framing materials, but all the framing materials, all the siding materials, and all the overhang materials, all the lumber, all that was purchased at a large lumber store, and total cost on all of it was $922.11. $922.11. So basically at this point, that's the total money output out of pocket that we have in the building. The roof metal would have added some cost, the ridge cap metal would have added some cost, and having to buy a door and hinges would have added some cost. We will have to go buy a latch. We're also going to buy some corner trim. So we're planning on running corner trim all the way up and all the way down the corners, okay? So we will have additional cost to buy corner trim. We're gonna get it from a local lumber yard, metal yard, and Schilling Truss in Beverly, Ohio is where we're gonna buy it. And they specialize in truss services, but they handle metal and lumber as well. So we'll get an order into them for corner trim all the way around it. Gonna try to get black, and that'll then be a color match when we do paint the T111 on the exterior. So adding to the 922.11, you would have had the roof metal and the door if you didn't have access to repurposing one. We're gonna add corner trim, and on this back side, so we're envisioning eventually a fence line along this backside, and maybe 2 or 3 more of these little sheds, and we'll put a chicken door right here in the back, hopefully an automatic one, and maybe something that we can run remotely. I don't know, we'll see, but that'll add to the cost too. So I'm just going to round up and say potentially you could have had $1,000 in this when it's a finished product. We also are going to have to, let me show you the bottoms of the walls, which I'm sure you've already seen, but we also are going to have to fill in these gaps. So since we wanted the building not to be a permanent structure, and it's not sitting on a foundation made just for it, at the bottom there are some gaps, and we had to level for the site by adding in, some filler boards. And even on this side, we have a gap there, so we're gonna have to deal with that. And there's a large gap on this side, so we'll be filling that in with probably just with some filler boards, and then and we'll see if we need to do any other predator deterrent on the outer skirting. So those features will add a little bit of cost. But like I said, I think you could reasonably say, if you had to go out and buy all the materials, this is 8 foot by 8 foot, $1,000 is a reasonable expectation if you have to go out and buy the materials. If you can salvage some materials, all the better, right? So that just reduces the cost. Then another thing that you factor in, a lot of us don't really think of factoring in, but your time is valuable too. So time-wise, if you're doing a do-yourself build on a project like this, what kind of time would you expect to have in it? If you're an experienced builder, and I'm evaluating this by observing my husband and my sons build this. My husband was in the construction trade for years, from 1996 to 2007, and worked with pole buildings, concrete, with multiple facets of construction. And even once he went out of the trade, he still continued to do concrete and pole buildings as an independent contractor part-time on the side, in addition to his day job and in addition to farming. So my point just an experienced builder. So if you're an experienced builder, and we had my husband and my 3 sons, and he's taught them different building techniques, so they were working together, but figuring all their man hours up like you would if you were a contractor figuring up a job, we came up to about 32 man hours thus far, plus the time it took to go get materials. So we were a good 4 hours on the material gathering trip and getting the materials together, and even what he brought from his family farm a couple miles from our home place, taking all that into consideration, about 4 hours gathering materials. So about 32 hours on the build, about 4 hours gathering materials. That's 36 hours. Plus, we're estimating probably another 4 man hours to go pick up the corner trim and to do the finishing touches on the building. So you might as well say 40 man hours in the building for an experienced builder. Now, I will tell you, my husband felt like it should not have taken that long. He said that was a long time, but the biggest thing, honestly, getting started that took so much time was where we're wanting to site it. You can see here, this wall does actually sit down into the ground, and this ground is still frozen. This is all ice. Some of the snow cover is melted away, but that's all just solid ice. So this is frozen ground. So they were having to deal with site prep really on frozen ground, and it took a long time. As little as it looks like we had to set down into this corner into the ground, it took a long time to dig that corner out. So in the end, if you're one person building it and you have some construction experience, feel like 40 hours, man hours would be definitely a reasonable amount of time that you could probably estimate to have it finished in, if conditions are good and if you are very confident about what you're doing. So it could take longer if it's something that you're just learning to do, or if conditions just are really hard to work in, and you might finish it faster than 40 man hours, but that would certainly be a reasonable estimate where you probably wouldn't go over that. My husband felt like for him, and having, additional help with being able to like measure and cut and hand things to each other, he felt like this should have been a weekend project. But, real life, by the time you go to the store, get the things, pick it all out, assemble it, prep your site, start putting it together, it takes the time it takes. So before we wrap up this one, I wanted to mention we had a video we just put up. I think it was one of our vlogs. Maybe we're up to like 47, 48. But I think we called it Doing What We Do, or just Doing What We Do. And I don't know that it's got very many views yet. So if you haven't watched it, go back and look for it. But I'll put a link to it as well. But the thumbnail on it, we had some different options for the thumbnail on that video. And we kept the one we kept because I mentioned in the description of that video, we were just doing what we do. My husband was in the zone building. I was in the zone talking about numbers and figuring, and how long did it take to build it, and how many chickens can we put in it, and that's kind of what we do. Like he's able to visualize a project, execute the project, and I'm like running numbers. What's it costing us, and how can we like analyze that data? But the thumbnail that we have on Doing What We Do on that episode of our vlog, I left it because it's basically like what you're seeing here. It was my husband working on this little chicken coop build, and maybe I was down further, but you could also see the old chicken building, the hen house, which you're seeing there, and then you could also see the front of our house. And so we had several options for thumbnails on that, but we left the one we picked because it really lended to that theme. We have the background knowledge to know it really lended to that theme, Doing What We Do, because all of this construction sitting here that y'all see, my husband built that. So this, little building, that permanent structure where the chickens are now, and our home is right there in the structure in the middle of the shop, more or less, that you just see part of the porch. And he built all that. So it was really representative of us doing what we do. We work on the projects together, but he's really the one who knows how to build it, knows how to execute that. And then I'll be running the numbers, figuring it out on the finances and the time, etc. So let us know if you do have any questions about this little chicken building. Obviously, we don't have chickens in it yet. We haven't used it yet. So we know now how it builds. We're yet to see how it functions, and we'll get there. But as of now, we think we like it. But basically, it came down to about $1,000 and 40 man hours for this 8x8 foot chicken coop build. So as far as a do-it-yourself project, $1,000 out of pocket probably, unless you can find repurposable material, and 40 hours or less man hours if you have some experience with building. And so I think we'll like it. And we will say one thing in the design that we wish we could have done differently, but we couldn't find another piece of material to make that change. We wanted a different kind of trim here. This is probably going to be more aesthetic than function. This is actually J-channel that we repurposed to set over top of this T111, but we were really hoping for something that returned up behind this corrugated panel, between it and the wood behind it, because there is, design-wise, only thing we're concerned about there is rain coming down, beating in on this, and could possibly get in behind this and run down on the inside of the wall, which would not be ideal. So if we do make any modification, we may find a way to put a different trim back in behind that. But there, where we purchased materials, there wasn't a trim piece already pre-made that did that. We wanted one that returned up behind and out over, and it just wasn't available where we were at. I don't know if they even make something like that, but anyway, so that would be probably the one thing we see we would change at this point. Thanks for joining me for my first look at our 8x8 foot chicken coop build. Can't wait to get some chickens in it. God bless y'all. We hope you have an excellent day.